Hello, everyone. Just hopping on tonight. I posted that I'd be going live on Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about habits. So I am going to wait to see. I'm looking for Dr. Jamil to kind of hop on here with me and talk about habits. So here we go. Let's see. I am adding him in. Let's see him come in. Here we go.
Hey,
All
hey,
right. Hey, how are you, Dr. Jamil?
doing wonderful. I always have to get used to turning it sideways for the lives. I'm
All
doing
right. Well,
wonderful though. How
great
are
that
you?
we got this to work.
Absolutely happy to be
So
here.
for just to get started, I am Jackie, and so for those of you that haven't seen me through Jamil, I am Jackie, and I am a health coach. I have been a personal trainer as well for over 20 years now, and have worked with a lot of people. Recently, I've kind of switched and started working with people on really tackling and identifying habits that they have that may be negative habits that are leading to unhealthy behaviors and trying to gradually bring in healthy habits to replace those. So that's when I kind of came across you and saw a lot of things that you were doing and was impressed by your work. So now we're connected and just want to kind of talk to you. So for my viewers, this is Dr. Jamil, and he is a naturopathic physician, and he's got the ebook is 20 steps to your next breakthrough.
You got it.
Yes, he's got an ebook, and I'm going to put that at the end. I'll put that in the comments section so anybody on here can see that as well. So why don't you give us some background about you?
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to hearing any comments from people. If anyone has any questions, throw them down in the comments and we'll answer them as soon as we can. So for me, as you mentioned, I'm a naturopathic physician and a transformation coach. And for the past 14 years, that's been my life's obsession. It's been how do I help people to accomplish their goals, but also to really create an extraordinary life on their terms without regret. I've seen in my life a lot of people who were young and old who had so much regret because they weren't living a life in alignment with who they were. They were living a life based on somebody else's expectations of what they were supposed to be doing. And if they were very old, they looked back thinking, I wish I could do it over again. And if they were young, they were so stuck in that rut that they felt like they couldn't change. And then so they stayed the course and they kind of prolonged their own misery. And so when I was young, my journey started at 14 in the health sphere. And from 14 to currently almost 29, it's been diving all in on how do I help people attain vibrant health. But then in the coaching side of it, how do I help them in their relationships? First with themselves, because if you don't have that love for yourself, it's really hard to give it to somebody else. So first get them in a state of peace with who they are. Then in their intimate relationships, get that communication mastered and get the spark in that relationship back that people think fades away. So now we have the relationships, the health, and then finally it's the mindset, the inner work, that inner game, the happiness, the fulfillment. These are the things that everybody wants, but it's not as clear always on how to get there. And so helping people get from A to Z, where they are to where they want to be, that's what lights me up more than anything else.
Yes, it is. It's awesome. I experienced some of that similar with personal training and with health coaching, just kind of seeing people grow and helping them get from, as you said, A to Z.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I work with and that we talked about was on this topic of habits. And a lot of people have these habits that they don't even realize that they have and are getting in the way of them moving forward and being in alignment with what they value. A lot of people want to work out or eat healthy, and then they don't, and they're not in alignment, and they get stuck in these ruts, and they don't even realize that some of it could be related to habits that they have. Do you experience that with people when you're coaching them?
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the head when you said that they're not even aware that they're doing it. Because if we say, what is a habit? A habit is a behavior that you engage in for a long enough period of time that it basically becomes unconscious. It becomes a lot easier to do. You don't really have to think about it. But then the problem becomes if it's a behavior that's not serving you in the direction you want to go in, you're going to be doing it effortlessly because the brain's going to take that path of least resistance. And so if you've been conditioning yourself to
Right.
go in a certain direction for a long enough period of time, it's going to feel really easy to do that and really hard to go in that direction that you want to go in. And that's something we can go in today in
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah. I mean, that's, one of the things that I just was reading about was, a habit that a lot of people have is just eating 3 meals a day. And studies have shown that that is one of the habits people have that can lead to obesity. So, and then when I talk to people about eating 5 to 6 times a day, it's really just 2 more times and a little bit less each meal, but they're so conditioned to this 3 meal that it seems like I'm asking a really hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some strategies that you use to help people develop healthier habits?
Well, I think the first thing that's most important when we're discussing habits is people need to identify why they want to change to whatever the new behavior is. If you ask yourself these questions, you ask yourself, why is it important that I make this change? Why does it matter? Who am I doing it for? What's the point? What's my intention? You have to know why, because life happens. You're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to get stuck. You're going to get knocked down. And if you're on a I don't like the word diet really, but let's say if you're on a diet and there's a party and you eat something that wasn't on your plan, well, you can beat yourself up for that and you can let it take you off course, or you can say, no, 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 I have a reason why I'm doing this, and then you get back on and you just jump right back on. So you have to know first of all why. And this is why when it comes to New Year's resolutions, I know we're basically in April, but when it comes to New Year's resolutions, think about it. Here comes December, people are thinking about the year ahead, and they tell themselves, all right, I want to create A, B, and C for my life, and I'm going to start January 1st. And for most people, with 2 weeks into January, they fall off and they never get back on. And one of the distinctions that I make with my clients that's so important is what is the difference between being interested in something and being committed to something? When you're interested, you use different language. You're saying, I hope it works out. If I'm lucky, it'll happen. I wish, I'll try. And this is the language that kind of presupposes failure. But when you
Yeah.
think commitment is I'm making a decision. When you make a decision, that root word is incision, it's to cut off. So when you say, I decide to do this, it means we're going all in this direction. There's no plan B, there's no way out. It's sink or swim. And so if I ask you, what would you do if you had to make it work? If everything that you held dear was on the line, what would you do to make this happen? And that's a commitment. And when you make a commitment, that's when you can tell somebody ahead of time, it's already done. You can tell somebody that you can count on it. This is going to happen. There's no, I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. And that's the
Right.
people that get the result. Because the people who make that New Year's resolution and stick with it, again, they have that why, they have a reason why they're doing it, and they make the commitment to hold themselves to a higher standard. And when they hold themselves to that standard, they very typically hit it. Does that part make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Now, so you kind of said this like 2 week period when you were talking about January. I think we kind of hit on that when we were talking the other day. And I said the same thing. The first week people are all gung ho,
Yeah.
excited, and you know, they're interested, they're doing it. Second week, it's like, okay, now it's becoming work. And then by the third week, it's like really work, and they're starting to like skip things, not do things that are going to lead them in the direction of what their resolutions were. And, and then it's like they pretty much are right back and not trying, they've given up almost on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do that. I've talked with my clients too about the why and getting them, understanding and really defining that why and getting down to the root of it so that it becomes that commitment. But it just seems like still doing that at around the 2-3 week period, it's kind of starts falling apart. What are some things that you do to, there are share strategies that you do with your clients that help them so that they keep that on the forefront of their minds? Because after a little bit, they just kind of forget about it. Are there things that you do, like, have them write it down, journaling? What have you tried?
So when you mentioned that 2 to 3 week period, when I was younger, there was this consensus that it takes 21 days to, install a new habit.
Right.
The research shows it's longer than that. It's in the realm of, between 40 and 70, like 66, 65 days is really that sweet spot. Everyone's going to be different, but this is just like a general, period. So if it's going to take you between 2 and 3 months to really solidify this as a habit, that makes it even more important, first of all, to know why you're doing it, right? So for example, if somebody wants to eat healthier, one simple thing, stop buying the stuff that you don't want to eat and putting it in your fridge, in your freezer, in your cabinet. Because when it's 9 p.m., 10 p.m., midnight, depending on when you're going to bed, and you get the munchies, you're going to reach for the thing that's going to hit that sweet spot. But if all you have are carrots and hummus and apples, it's not going to be as big of a deal. So don't fill yourself with an environment that's going to damage you. If when I hang around a certain group of people, I do certain things that I don't want to do anymore, then you either have to hang out with a different group of people, or you have to tell those people not to do certain things when you're around you, because you're working toward a certain direction, and hopefully they respect you enough to say, okay, we're not going to smoke around Jackie because we know she's trying to quit, something like that. So I think that's really important. And so in terms of little things, to put it simply, when it comes to the way the brain works in regards to habits, think of it like a pleasure and a pain scale. And we all go toward whatever is pleasurable and away from what's painful. But the thing is that it's not as clear cut as that. There's something called delayed gratification, right? This is, I'm going to take a temporary pain, whether that be actual pain or I just don't get to have something that I want for a short period of time, because I know in the long run, it's going to lead to something beautiful. It'll even be bigger and better than I can even imagine, right? But that's not the way most people operate. Most people operate, let's say, more along the lines of procrastination, which is, I'm going to put this off because it's more painful I feel like it's more painful to do it now than it is to do later. That's why people will say, oh, I'll start my diet on Monday. And Saturday is like, it's Saturday and there's a party going on. But then Monday comes around and something else happens. Then we tell ourselves, I'll start tomorrow. And then tomorrow becomes today, and then we never start. But then if you're like me, back when I was in college, you had a paper, it was due a month from now, and I'll tell myself, I have a month, I have time. And I'll put it off and I don't do it because I'd rather go out with my friends, I'd rather play some games, I'd rather read, I'd rather do something. But then now it's midnight, the night before, the paper's due at 8. I'm not going to go to sleep. And it's more painful not to do it than it is to do it. And now it's no longer I should do it, it's I have to do it. And that's going back to that interested versus committed. That's that big difference there. That if you focus on why do you need to get this done? Why does it have to happen? And then you can even future pace, which means you visualize what life would be like in the future after this habit has become normal for you. How much better will your life be? How will you be able to impact other people? If you're a smoker and you stop smoking and you've got kids, all of a sudden they're not exposed to that secondhand smoke anymore. There's other people that'll be affected by you making this habit change successfully. And the more you can think about it, internalize it, you mentioned writing it down, it makes it more real. And then you review it every single day. And the more you review it, the realer it becomes for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. The side effects of, if you stop smoking, what you do for people around you, it's like if you become the healthiest version of you and people are seeing that, then you are modeling that for them and you're improving their lives too, motivating them, inspiring them. So the side effects of, when you make healthier choices, it just kind of has a rippling effect.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also important to note, a lot of people identify with their behaviors. And the problem with that is, I used procrastination before, so I'll bring that up again. If I say, I happen to procrastinate sometimes, versus I am a procrastinator, that is not just semantics. There is a massive difference there, that if people don't appreciate that and acknowledge that, they're going to fall into the trap. And this is what I mean. If I say, I am a smoker, well, what does that mean that I do? It means that I smoke, because smokers smoke.
Right.
I cannot stop smoking if I identify as a smoker, because I'm no longer being congruent with who I think I am. You know, if you consider yourself an honest person and the opportunity comes up to lie, depending on how honest you think you are, you won't lie, because it goes against every fiber of your being. You're like, that's not me. That's not who I am. So when I've helped people smoke in the past, stop smoking in the past, big difference. When I help people stop smoking in the past, in a few hours, it's because I shift the identity. When I stop you from seeing yourself in a certain light, I happen to smoke in the past, but I no longer choose that for myself going forward. I am not a smoker from this moment onward. Here are all the reasons. Right. This is what I'm going to do when time gets hard to remind myself of that commitment. And then here are the people I'm going to surround myself with that are going to help me through. You know, you mentioned earlier, what are some things people can do? You know, most people have their phone on them at all times. You can set I usually use my calendar app. You know, I have an iPhone, I can put the calendar, but you can do it in the reminders section as well. You put in whatever it is that you want to remind yourself to do, whatever it is you want to remind yourself to be, what kind of person, right? And the things that you need to remember. And you set it for strategic times. I've got something going off every hour, pretty much the whole day. You could have something going off at 8 in the morning, at midnight, at noon, whatever it is that you know, this is the moment in the day where I usually struggle. And at that point, at that point, when you're getting lost in the temptation, you're not thinking about the commitment anymore. You're just staring at the thing. You want to do it. Then your phone buzzes. And if you're like most people, you get this like dopamine hit, and it's like you instantly want to check, and you want to see who liked your stuff or who messaged you or whatever it is. And there's the text message like right there saying, you know, remember, you are not a this, you're this, or it's like, if you got a son and his name is Mark, and it's like do it for Mark, you know, it's like, and there's a picture of him. You make it powerful, you make it emotional, you make it pull at the heartstring.
I love
and when
that.
you do
That's
that,
a great suggestion.
Thank you. That's such a powerful thing, because we are emotional and logical creatures. If you just tell yourself a logical reason why you shouldn't do this, very likely you're going to fail and it won't work. But if you make it emotional, if you involve something bigger than yourself, all the people that you care about, the people you're doing it for, the impact it's going to have, that makes it infinitely easier to get this to success. So first you have the phone. And then if you're someone that likes to write, you can write in your journal every single day. You can do it in the morning. You can do it at night. If you're going to the fridge every day, you can have a note right on the fridge, little reminders all over the place, Post-it notes in the bathroom mirror. There's all these different ways you can do it, because you have to see it consistently. You know, you can surround yourself with a group of people. We talked about that before. You know, when I coach people, I look at what I call their inner circle. Who are the people you're surrounding yourself with? Because the people you surround yourself with, and more importantly, the people that you learn from, are going to dictate your future. Because if everyone around you, if you're the most ambitious person in your group, you're not really going to strive for more, because it already feels like you're it. You're already there. If you're the most successful person in your group, let's say in terms of finances, and everyone else has half the wealth that you have financially, you're already the rich one in the group. So there's really no reason to strive even higher. But when there's that old quote, if you're the smartest kid in the class, you're in the wrong class. When you surround yourself with people that are playing at a higher level than you. So in the case of exercise, if you're like, you know, I really want to go out for my morning run. Well, if you leave it to yourself and you do it alone, and it's 5 a.m. and the alarm goes off, and you don't consider yourself a morning person, you know, it's not, I'm not a morning person. It's, I have a habit of not being a morning person, and it's not an identity, but now you've built that into yourself. So you wake up, it's 5 a.m., you want to hit the snooze button. But if you know there's 6 people in your apartment complex or 6 of your friends that are meeting at the park that's 5 minutes away from you, and they're
Right.
counting on you and they're waiting for you, you're more likely to get out of bed than if it's just you. So you
Right.
surround yourself with a team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's, kind of just speaks to the program that I work with. It has a lot of like community, online community through Facebook and through different groups. And that helps because people know someone else is paying attention, because not everyone can have, that person that's going to get up at 5 a.m. to run with them. Uh,
Yeah.
but, and it's just kind of connecting with people that are in the same mindset of what you're trying to do. And I think, I'm sure with the coaching that you do, and, coaching that I'm doing, it's kind of, I think everybody kind of needs someone that's rallying and kind of on their team and helping them identify all the things that you just spoke of to get them to a point where they really have a clear why they're doing it. And, the strategies that you mentioned with the phone and post-it notes and journaling, it's important to do these things to, keep it on the forefront. Because as you said, if not, especially in an emotional time, you may be weak and, in the case of eating healthy, choose something that's not as healthy in that time.
Absolutely.
So,
And you
yeah,
mentioned the accountability, whether it be, get a coach, get a friend, get a partner, get somebody who knows what you're
right,
trying to build for yourself. And when they know, okay, this is the direction Jackie wants to go in, and she's asked me to help her get there, either because we both want to go in that direction, or she needs my support because she knows that when she gets home, I'll be there, and that's when maybe she's in more of a vulnerable space, and that's when she's more likely to have that misstep, and she wants me to just remind her. Something like
right,
little like that. It could be night and day difference. It could mean the world to that person. Get the coach, get the accountability
yes,
partner, get the friend, somebody on board, or a group,
right,
whatever it is, to push you forward, because you're always going to go further as a team than you will alone.
right, right. So, do you have any kind of tips for, so you mentioned, a lot it has to do with the people that you're kind of surrounding yourself with. And if a lot of people sometimes are kind of nervous to share with people what they're trying to do, and they don't. Any tips on that you
So it's
found?
really interesting. Yeah, so it's interesting. So when I was younger, let's say early teenage years, I was extremely shy. And I was this person that I was crawled up in a ball, and I never wanted anyone to know like what was going on in here. I was a singer and I love music, and yet I'd only sing at home. And the moment people would be like, "Hey, you got to sing for everybody," I close up and I'm like, "Oh no, I can't sing," like because I'd be embarrassed. I'd be afraid of judgment, right? At a certain point in my life, I experienced a tragedy that woke me up, and that tragedy made me stop seeing life as this, like, I care so much about what other people think about me that I'm going to change my behavior and limit my fullest expression, because I wasn't happy being that version of me, because I knew I was playing small. If you're with a group of people that you consider your friends and you consider them good friends, the test of that is how open can you be with them? How authentic can you be with them? Can you be your real self around them? If you can't, that's the question you should ask yourself. Why? If you feel that they're going to judge you, is it really true, or is that only in your mind, a fear that you have? Maybe they'd support you completely, and you're not giving them enough credit. If they actually would judge you negatively for being yourself, then you need new friends. And so from that perspective,
Exactly.
yeah, so from that perspective, be yourself, be authentic, be open, share what's important to you, share what you're trying to accomplish. A real friend is going to hear you and say, "Oh, wow, Jackie, you want to eat healthier, you want to get more energy, you want to be better for your kids, you want to stop smoking, you want to do this, you want to work out more. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. Keep it up. Can I help you in any way? Like, can I do it with you? Like, I've been wanting to do that too." If they're going to give you a hard time, that's not somebody you want to spend time with.
Right. Yeah, good points. Yeah. That, definitely, I mean, because if you're not being yourself and being authentic, then you're going to have internal struggles with yourself. because you're not. So
Yeah.
it's important to be able to be around people and to realize that it's for you.
Yeah, because think about it.
So
Imagine, let me just get rid of that. Sorry. Think about it. This is the alternative. Somebody can say, you know, when I'm around my friends, I'm being a fake version of me, and it doesn't feel good. Give me some tips and strategies so I can keep doing that, but feel good about it. And that's way off. Like, that's not, you're nowhere next to on point when you think that way, because it's like, how do I continue being fake and yet feel at peace with that? Versus,
right,
how do I actually show up so vulnerable, so authentic, so real and raw, that the people that are attracted to that, the people that see that, and it represents, wow, they're so brave and courageous to let their true self out. I want to be around that because I struggle with that. You know, everyone thinks that
right,
everyone else is judging them and thinking about them all the time. And, oh, if I try and I mess up, everyone's going to notice. And that's not true. Everyone's, for the most part, just thinking of themselves. Everyone's worried about what you think. And you're sitting there
yes,
thinking, I'm so afraid of what everybody else thinks. The best advice I
right,
could ever give anybody: be yourself, be real, be authentic, and watch that magic unfold when you start breaking through fears one at a time, because you're like, wow, why was I even afraid of this? And then you get momentum,
right,
and it gets easier and easier and easier. And there's a good tie in there with habits, that you act the way you act in terms of your habits, as we said, because you've been conditioned. Think of it like a cycle, right? And in the brain, path of least resistance, right? Like neuroplasticity kind of stuff, where the brain can change. If you act a certain way, every habit's got three aspects to it. There is the trigger. There's the thing that happens that lets you and your mind know now's the time to do the thing. If you wake up every morning and you go for a morning run, and let's say you consider that a helpful habit, the alarm clock went off, your running shoes are right there, you have a habit to do that. So you're not even thinking. You just get up, your feet fall right into your shoes, and you go. But if you also have a habit, the trigger, let's say, is, oh, every day at lunch, me and all my coworkers, we walk outside to the balcony and everyone starts smoking. Well, then the moment the lunch sound goes off, you walk over, there's everyone, they start lighting up, and you pull it out without even thinking about it, because that's the trigger. Then there's the second
right,
part, which is the behavior. That's the habit itself, whatever the thing is that you do. And then the final part is the reward. What are you getting out of it? Some people smoke because it relaxes them. Some people eat excess amounts of food, usually, you know, food that's not serving to their body's health, because it helps them to cope with emotional stress. So a lot of people try to eliminate a habit. They try to break a habit. Oftentimes that doesn't work, because what you're trying to do is like brute force your way through, and you have this conditioned pattern, this wheel going, saying, I feel this way, I take this action, I get this reward. And that keeps, you know, enticing you to do it more and more and more. Now you tell yourself, I'm going to stop doing that thing. But then your brain goes, but I want that reward. I've been conditioned to get that reward. You can't like take that from me that easily. So what ends up happening is you get the urge, you might be able to fight it off for a while, but at some point you break, because willpower doesn't last. Willpower, just
right,
think about it, just the name itself. If it takes willpower, there's a part of you that doesn't want it. If it takes willpower, you're forcing it. You're trying
right,
to force your way through. Versus, instead of breaking it or eliminating the habit, replace it with something else. And so
right,
if you are, let's say, smoking because it helps you relax, you don't really like smoking. You like what smoking does for you. That's what, in your mind,
right,
that's what you've linked up. When I smoke when I feel stressed, and then I smoke and I feel so much lighter, the anxiety's lower, I can breathe easier, and I'm attributing that to the cigarette. But maybe what happens if I learn a new breathing technique? What happens if someone teaches me a new way to meditate, a way to pray, something that calms me down enough that I don't have that urge to smoke anymore? Now, there's still going to be a physiological response, a withdrawal period, but it doesn't last as long as you think it does in terms of getting that nicotine out of your system. So most of the withdrawal that people go through is the mental aspect of it. The nicotine is out of your system, I believe it's a couple days or a week or two. It's one of those two. It's a very short period of time where it's more of this habit that you've built into your system saying, I need this, right? But now you're still getting the reward with that meditation, with that breath work. Maybe you eat, again,
Right.
in excess because you have this emotional stress. But then you decide, when I'm feeling really stressed out, I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to work out. I'm going to go
Right.
heartbeat going, sweating. I'm going to journal. I'm going to call up or meet with a really good friend that I can just completely be open and real and authentic with and share everything. I'm going to cry. I'm going to have a release. You know, we live in this society that it's not okay to express yourself emotionally. You know, you start crying and people say, "What's wrong?" Which implies that something's wrong with the way you're feeling.
Things wrong. And,
Instead
right.
of like, how are you feeling? You know, you start crying and you're younger and you get told big girls don't cry. You get told be a man. You get told like, you know, stiffen your lip up or whatever they would say. You know, you get all these
Right.
things and it's like, people make it wrong to show emotion. But when you don't express it and you suppress it, it gets stuck in your body and you feel that. And it starts to build up and build up and build up. And anyone who's been in a relationship that hasn't been going well, let's say maybe you don't communicate well, it's like you've built a habit up of not sharing what you're feeling. And so, you know, Jackie does something and it upsets me, but I don't say anything. And then she keeps doing it and she doesn't know that it's upsetting me. And she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it, she keeps doing it. And then a year goes by and I finally blow up. And it's like, you know, Jackie, you left the fork in the sink again. And Jackie's like, why are you so angry? It's just a fork. Now, it's obviously not just a fork. It's 1 year of like frustration coming out all
Of a
at
fork
once.
and a plate.
Yeah, but that can ruin the relationship right there. In the same way that
Right.
any habit that you've built up can really ruin the progress that you want for yourself if you're not careful. And so when you realize that, all right, I need to replace the habit, not break it, and you realize it's going to take me 2 or 3 months to make this change really happen. It'll get easier though. How do you set yourself up for success? First, you got to get real clear on what you want. It can't be vague. I want to lose weight. That doesn't mean anything because if you say I want to lose weight and you're obese, well, you want to lose 5 pounds? You want to lose 100 pounds? So, you know, if maybe you're a little bit up higher than your ideal body weight, do you want to lose 10 pounds, 3 pounds, 5 pounds? It matters because if you're vague, I want to make more money. And then I make $5. Well, mission accomplished, but that's not what I was going for.
Right.
So you have to get real specific. I want to work out more? No, I want to work out 3 days a week for 1 hour each time, 2 of those days in the weight room, 1 day cardio, you know, something like that. And I'm going to do it at this place at this time. You get as specific as possible. Then you figure out why you want it. You figure out what is the driving factor for me? What is pushing me in this direction? It's not even I'm getting pushed, I'm getting pulled. It's easy. It's like this thing is so important to me because what it's going to allow me to do in the future, how it's going to let me serve my friends, my family, my community, my own health, whatever it is, it becomes easier. So you know what you want, you know why you want it. You surround yourself with the right environment of the people and the places. If you know every time I go to a certain place, I drink or I smoke or I eat bad food, stop going to that place. And when you realize, all right, now I've
Right.
got all these areas covered, then you have the little reminders. You got the phone reminders. You have something on your calendar. You have a note handwritten on your fridge, on your mirror. There's so many ways you can do it. You tell people. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. You get accountability by telling, put it on your Facebook, something like, if you're big on social media, you say, hey, everybody, this is my commitment to every single one of you. In 3 months, I will lose 20 pounds. This is what I weigh right now. Here's a picture of what I look like. And I'm going to give you a weekly update every Friday. And if I don't give it to you, anyone who comments, I will give $20 to. You better believe you do something
Yeah.
like that, you're going
Right.
to get results.
That's great. I like that.
Yeah. Because if you do something like that, you're going to be like, 200 people liked that first post, which is potentially thousands of dollars that I'm going to have to pay out right now if I don't lose 20 pounds and if I don't make a once a week post. You know, you tell all your friends
Right.
at the office, all your family what you're doing, and you ask them to call you out on it. You ask them, hey, like, ask me where I'm at next week, you know, and you tell everybody what you're doing so that when you want to quit, when you want to give up, that little voice in your head goes, but you told everybody at work this, but you told the family that, but you promised your son that you were gonna, your son's 5 and he hates that you smoke, and you promised him that you were gonna quit. And then he
Right.
looks at you and he's like, you go to reach for the cigarette and he looks at you and he's like, Mommy, but you promised. And then your heart like breaks and you're like, crap, I forgot.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like this
I've been there.
powerful, yeah. It's like these powerful emotional reminders that when you do all these steps we just said, the chances of you succeeding are so high. But when you stack the deck against yourself, because most people do the opposite, they're vague about what they want. They don't really know why they want it. They don't tell anybody what they're going for because the fear is if I tell people and I don't do it, then I fail, then they're going to make fun of me, then they're going to think
Right.
less of me.
Right.
So now I don't know what I want. I don't know why I want it. I don't tell anybody I want it. I've got no way of reminding myself. And then when times get hard, I give in. And that's just kind of how most people operate. And if anyone they want to install a new habit into their life, rewatch this video if you're not taking notes right now and implement it into your life. And I guarantee you, give it 90 days, your whole life is going to be different. Whether it be getting into a habit of communicating better at a higher level with your partner about your true feelings, whether it be about your health, your exercise routine, your mental talk, telling yourself certain things every day. Most people's mental talk is very negative. They talk down to themselves, but none of that's also a habit. None of that is inborn within you. Nobody is born thinking that they're worthless. Nobody is born having this negativity playing as like a repeat song in their head. You learned it. Somebody else planted that seed into you, but it's been playing for so long that it starts to feel like your own voice. But when you can replace it with something that you tell yourself, there is people that every day they walk up into the bathroom, they look at themselves in the mirror, and they just tell themselves, you know, John, you are this, you are this, you are this. And from the outside perspective looking in, some people look at that and they go, oh, that's just that positive thinking stuff, that doesn't work. And they don't realize that that person is looking themselves in the eyes as if they were staring into their soul. They might even be naked. And they're telling themselves, you know, you're enough. And they're telling themselves, you know, obviously, you know, you have your goals and you want to lose weight, but lose weight knowing that you are okay as you are in terms of as a human being, as a spirit, as a soul, like you are important. And they're crying as they're telling themselves this, so, you know, Mary, I love you just the way that you are when you're Mary. It's like, it's amazing these little things that you can do that completely change the way you see yourself, where you start to have self-compassion. One of the examples I always love referencing, when I was younger, there was this habit of people in my age group who would always say the word like in the middle of a sentence 10, 20 times. It never made sense. In the context of the sentence, never made sense. But they weren't aware of it because it was a habit. So then, let's say I'm the one doing it, and I don't know. So we're talking, and I say like this and like that and like this. And then Jackie says, you know, Jamil, I know you have big goals for yourself and you want to do A, B, and C. I just want you to know, because, you know, we're good friends, that you said the word like 46 times in the last 5 minutes. And some people might judge you for that, and you might want to stop. And maybe I don't believe you. And the next time we speak, you record it. And then you play it. And I listen to it. And I think, wow, that sounded horrible. Now I'm aware of it. That's the first step. But when you're aware
I've
of a
gone
habit,
through this myself. I've had this exact same experience. I used to say like all the time.
So tell me then if your experience matches what I'm about to lay out then. So you become aware of it. So now this is huge. You didn't know you were saying it. Now you know you're saying it, but you keep saying it because it's still a habit. Then it gets to a point where you say like, and you catch yourself right after you said it. And you say, oh, wow, I just said it again. But you keep saying it, but now you keep catching yourself. I really got to stop saying that. I really got to stop saying that. Eventually you get to the point where the word like is about to come out, and then you stop and you go, I almost said it. And then that'll keep happening. You'll say like occasionally, and then eventually the urge doesn't even happen because you've unconditioned yourself. You've deprogrammed yourself from saying it. Every habit goes through that same phase. If it took you 20 years to get where you are, give yourself 6 months to a year to undo it. Don't expect yourself to be perfect tomorrow. And if you have that compassion for yourself where you say, okay, you know, I made some progress the last 3 days. I was really proud of myself. Then I messed up. I fell off. Okay, I get back on. I keep going. that's going to get you there. But if you keep beating yourself
Right.
up every time you fall off, you're never going to get there because you're going to keep paralyzing
No.
yourself.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
I definitely went through that. But I like, you know, just being patient and compassionate with yourself and realize that it's not, you know, it's progress. It's not going to be something that's perfect from go. So
Absolutely.
great point. So yeah, I think, you know, that you've really covered a lot in a short amount of time. So definitely, I'm going to put in the comments the link to your 20 steps to a breakthrough so people
Yeah.
can see that. I think that's really interesting and great for people to read. So, you know, if anybody needs to go back, listen to this, because Dr. Jamil just gave us a lot of strategies, a lot of tips, things that we can start implementing now.
Yeah. And I want to add to that real quick. A lot of people have this idea that I want to do something, but I don't know how. Now, the issue with that is that you live in a world where I'm on my phone, so I can't show it to you. But if I grab my phone right now, I can Google anything I want to learn. I can YouTube anything I want to know. If I don't know how, I can find out how. The issue is not you don't know how to, it's that you don't want to enough.
Right.
Because when you want it enough, you make it happen. Anybody who's listened to this up until this point or at any point in the middle of it, you no longer have the excuse of saying, I don't know how to make a new habit happen. You don't have the excuse of, I don't know how to swap out one habit for another. I don't know how to sustain my growth. Everything that we just said is simple, yet so powerful. You got the keys to the kingdom. It works. You just have to apply it. And you know, the whole world changes for you.
Yes, it does. And I kind of, with the willpower and want, I always say, you know, it's not just willpower, it's want power. How bad do you want it? So
yeah. And if you have the
awesome.
want power and the why power, you get there.
That's right. Yes. So awesome. So it was great. Just want to kind of wrap up. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on here with me so that we could kind of share some information and get out as much as we can to people to help them start changing and improving and getting out of their ruts. So
thank you so much, Jackie. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope that if one person watched this and got what they needed to change everything, then this was so worth it. So thank you so much.
Exactly. I think that one person might have been me.
Yeah, perfect. I think me too. I always benefit from it as well.
Right. Awesome. Well, have a great evening, and I'll share your information in the comments below.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
All right. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.